On today's show, we break down all the hype about Ivan Demidov, what he projects to be, how good is he, why is everyone talking about him for the 2024 NHL Draft, and then we'll be back with Laura Saba for a crossover segment in order to break down some of the top end names in the 2024 draft. Before that, we'll also talk about some defensemen from that draft. All that's coming up on Locked On NHL Prospects.
You are Locked On NHL Prospects, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello, and welcome back to Locked On NHL Prospects, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. On this podcast, we break down everything prospects related for you 5 days a week. But during the summertime, it'll be 3 times a week. I'm Sebastian. Hi. I'm Hadi Kalakash, joined by Sebastian. Hi. And on today's episode, we'll be talking a lot about the 2024 NHL Draft coming up. There's a bunch of names that have started kind of creeping up and appearing kind of higher than they were before in terms of what we saw from them last year. So we're going to start off with 3 defensemen that we really like from this draft class, mainly Aron Kiviharju, Carter Yakemchuk, and
Zeev Buium.
Zeev Buium. There we go. So we got those 3 defensemen coming up. We'll be talking about them. Before we get into that, though, just make sure to like and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube, and make sure to make us your first listen of the day if you're listening on your favorite podcasting platform. It is always very much appreciated. So, Sebastian, I want you to get us started on Zeev Buium here in our kind of first segment on the 2024 NHL drafts, kind of high-end defenseman that we haven't discussed earlier. So having watched Zeev Buium, what do you like from him so far?
I think his combination of mobility and passing ability are really high-end. He was probably the most refined D-1 defenseman on the NTDP this season. I think calling him more refined than Cole Hudson is fair. But his defensive game isn't amazing. Like, there's still definitely a lot of work that has to be done there, and I'm very curious to see what a season in the NCAA is going to change on that front, because I think he'll need to in order to get bigger minutes. That said, he is a tremendous skater. He's really intelligent in how he uses skating as a separating tool as well. He knows how to create separation as a puck carrier. He knows how to match footwork against the rush when he's defending. He uses his skating really to amplify every aspect of his game, and that's usually the mark of an elite skater, is when they know how to use that ability to the greatest possible extent. And I've seen that with Buium. And in terms of his passing ability, he shows some good deception in transition. He can hit his targets when he finds them. He's shown some ability to switch lanes as well. And he's relatively dynamic with the puck. He's very fun as a whole. I think there's definitely still questions about his risk assessment gauge and maybe how he defends in zone when his skating can't be the biggest separating tool anymore. But as a whole, I've quite liked my viewings, and I like him more than other defensemen that are very much in that top round discussion so far.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I was wondering, though, for Zeev Buium specifically, is he the type of guy, we don't want to talk about specific spots and rankings or anything like that yet. Way too early. But I was wondering kind of where he falls for you. Like, for me personally, I would see him be a top 15 pick. Like, I think that's realistic for him.
I agree. I think right now, my guess is that he's somewhere in the teens. I think he'll go somewhere between like 11 and 20-ish. But again, it's way too early for us to say. We can try to sound smart with these predictions, but most of them are going to go awry pretty quickly. But he's definitely in the middle of that glut of skilled defensemen that are available in this draft. 2 more of whom that we're about to cover, and many others that we've talked about in previous episodes too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, for me, it's mainly just the Cam Allen situation from last year has really kind of turned me off from going and kind of predicting where guys will go this early in the year. Yep. So we'll let that play out. But I do want to talk
about
Notable
top 10 selection, Cameron Allen.
Right, absolutely.
Didn't happen.
And yeah, no, for sure. And then now I just want to kind of go through the other 2 names that we kind of discussed at the start of the episode here. So first and foremost, for me, Aron Kiviharju out of Finland was touted heading into last year as one of the guys who could contend with Rasmus Dahlin as kind of the top defenseman in recent years to come out of a draft. He was touted as a first overall pick. A lot of people were convinced by the skill set. I still am. I think that he probably makes my top 5. I really, really like the transition elements, the skating ability, the defensive game is on and off, but when it's on, and that's what's really interesting with Kiviharju is you need to develop consistency. You need to develop a bit better reads, but all the offensive tools are there, the skating abilities there. I'm surprised to see him drop lower and lower on some kind of early rankings from some people. Do you have any kind of explanation around that, or is it too early to tell?
I think it may right now at this early be a slight reaction to just his league tape not being as good as his international tape. He's been exceptional in basically every big tournament he's played in. He's been already in 2 World Junior teams.
His age group, just performing really well against guys his age.
And I think the little I've seen of his league tape so far has been good, but it hasn't been the same level of excellent. And I think that there might just be a bit more hesitation on that front. Yeah. But again, it's early. Like right now, I expect him to end up inside my top 10. But I also expected Cam Allen to be inside my top 10 a year ago. So
yeah. Which is why we just kind of give our thoughts on these guys, our early thoughts on these guys, and let things play out. Around November, you should see some rankings come out, and then we'll be kind of willing to talk about them more in detail in terms of where we think they'll go. But for me, Kiviharju is just, he's absurdly skilled with the puck. The awareness, the vision that he has when he's on his game is just fantastic. And I'm not too concerned with the league play, especially now that he's moved from TPS to an actual good team in HIFK. Which will help in his
system too.
A lot better development program there for sure. So I think that'll help his projection a lot, and we'll see a true representation of what Aron Kiviharju can do when he's well surrounded, which is what he'll be in the NHL. So I'm interested to see where that goes. I wouldn't be surprised if it plays out in terms of Kiviharju being a contender for a top 3 pick. I don't think he goes that high because some concerns, like you said, but we'll see where that goes. And to finish things off, Carter Yakemchuk, you've watched a game of his recently. What did you like about that viewing specifically?
Ooh, I was really impressed with just how composed he was under pressure. Like this was something I noticed in my viewings of him at the U18s this past season. But it was also quite evident in the WHL game that I watched of his. He plays for Calgary. And I think it's a combination of composure under pressure. He's very big and he's a very fluid skater, or not very. He's a fairly fluid skater, and that's a nice combination. And I always like it when like these big burlier defensemen really come through with high-end intelligence and composure and all those other fun traits that typically get me excited for players the most. And I think Yakemchuk is one who, at least as of right now, I think he's on the trajectory to end up as a top 15 guy on my board, but it's still early days. But everything I've seen of him so far has been good. He has decent puck skills. He's a solid puck protector. He knows how to use his reach and his skating to shield possession. Yep. I think that overall he projects as a very competent possession-based defenseman in a top 4 in the NHL.
Yeah, absolutely. That's one thing I really liked about him is you see a guy with this profile, with his defensive abilities, and you think, okay, he's kind of a glass and out guy. But then the moment he gets a puck on the boards, he's immediately trying to hit the middle. He's immediately trying to get to his backhand, to get off the boards. It's just, that's what you want from, your defenseman in modern hockey. And it's just, he fits that mold to a T, which I really like. All right, so that wraps things up for our first segment. Now heading into our second and third segments, which will both be collab segments with Laura Saba from Locked On Canadiens. We'll be talking about some more 2024 NHL Draft prospects and kind of what we see from them, including Ivan Demidov, who is a fantastically fun player. So can't wait to we got very giddy with Laura there. So can't wait to let you know kind of our thoughts about that. So stay tuned. In the meantime, I want to talk to you about our next partner, which is AG1. AG1 is the daily foundational nutrition supplement that supports whole body health. And I gave AG1 a try mainly because I wanted to add a nutritional boost to my day. I wanted something that I could take at the start of the day that wasn't 8,000 pills of vitamins. I just wanted one source of nutrition that would get me through the day. And AG1 is definitely that. I take it in the morning before starting my day, and it really makes me feel like I'm doing something good for my body. And you can feel that energy boost throughout the day. I mean, I have soccer usually at 8, 9 p.m. at night on Sundays especially, and I take it in the morning and I can still feel that boost up until my game. So it really helps you get through to your day and still have the energy at the end of it to do something good for yourself. So it's kind of a habit building thing with AG1. It helps you develop those good habits. So if a comprehensive solution is what you need from your supplement routine, then try AG1 and get a free 1 year supply of vitamin D and 5 free AG1 travel packs with your first purchase. So go to drinkag1.com/NHL network. Again, that's drinkag1.com/NHL network to take advantage of this great deal. Check it out.
But I do want to look ahead to 2024 before I let the lovely and talented Sebastian and Hadi go. Randy asks, which junior league has the cream of the crop for the next couple of drafts, and which prospect in the 2024 draft are you most excited about?
Oh, Demidov, right? Hadi?
I don't think there's any doubt. Ivan Demidov is making a very good push for the first overall pick, which
he's at one on my board very tentatively right now. He's too much fun.
Okay, let's talk about Ivan Demidov. Who is Ivan Demidov, and why should we be paying attention?
All right,
he's a better player overall than Matvei Michkov, in my opinion.
At the same age. But Michkov took such massive steps after his move to Sochi. We're gonna have to see if Demidov keeps on the same trajectory, being ahead of him.
Yeah, but now it's no doubt.
As a D-1, it is very, very clear to me that Demidov is a better player. Like, better in terms of, I think he's more dynamic. I think he is a lot more projectable, and I think that he's more fun somehow than Michkov, which is
astounding. Yeah,
shouldn't be the case, but it is. Demidov is an electrifying winger. He brings some impressive intensity and defensive intelligence to the mix as well. Yeah. He's constantly moving. He never stops moving, which Michkov does a lot off puck, especially defensively. He's a capable pickpocket on the back check, but with the puck, it is lights out. He is elite in transition. I don't know if I've seen a single D-1 player with better handling skill ever.
Yeah,
than Demidov.
It's insanity. And he has no business being as good defensively as he is.
It's like the handling skill is off the charts. Like I did a game report and I have like a little grading scale for tools. I gave him a 10 for handling, and 10 was literally reserved last season for Bedard's shot. That was like the only 10 grade I gave all year. And here's like my second viewing of the season officially that I'm logging, and I'm already giving it 10. And I'm like, okay. He's very fun. And look, he's not as good of a shooter as Michkov is, but he's really, really good. He's probably a better playmaker than Michkov is by a smidgen, though I do think that Michkov's playmaking is underrated. He is also very, very intelligent. He's constantly using lateral motion. He skates a little bit like Antonio Stranges. So I'm not sure if you've seen highlights of Stranges skating. He's a Dallas Stars prospect who isn't like a slam dunk NHLer, but the skating is off the charts electrifying. And like you see highlights on TSN of him playing in the OHL and skating with his mohawk turns and stuff. Demidov does a similar thing, but more small area game rather than like Stranges would do it like big, like loop back around the net and then doing his mohawks to kind of build speed going up into transition. Demidov does it in small areas, and it makes him unbelievably adaptable. If he pressure from any 2 or 3 directions, he can probably weave through it because he can move in any direction at any time, and he has the hands to match the feet, and he has the brain to match it all. It's really impressive. He's the one player from the 2024 draft class that I think, if we were to do like a combined 2023-2024 ranking, he's the only, as of right now, he's the only player that in my mind could be ahead of Fantilli in terms of ranking. I think much as I adore Macklin Celebrini, I don't know if he's going to edge out Fantilli in terms of that head-to-head comparison, but Demidov is wild, and he embodies excitement. And I mean, I think considering that we both got giddy when we mentioned his name, he's fun.
Oh, I can tell from the way you guys are lighting up when you're talking about
it. It's so fun.
He's so good, just so good. He's
out.
been a treat to watch this year. I mean, it's just I see Ivan Demidov, and I see a guy who has no business being as good defensively as he is because of how good offensively he is. He shouldn't be facing
those scenarios. The defensive game is look, the defensive game isn't elite, it's above average, and it should be awful for this style of player.
For this style of guy, you just would expect him to be that kind of Michkov of just like no effort defensively and like not getting back on time, pinching, cheating. He does none of that. He's a first to come back and give that effort level on the back check as a winger, and it's so impressive to see. But what's really impressive to me is even if he didn't have the hands or the playmaking ability or the goal scoring ability that he has a foundation of intensity, of defensive tools. Of the only thing that's really missing in his game is the physical game. I think he's a very much below average physical player
for sure.
And that might come with time. He's 16, so it's just it could develop with time, and you can get just a fully well-rounded offensive winger who can do everything and has elite hands. So it's just, he's been great to watch.
It's honestly like I love listening to this. So I only have a couple more questions for you guys, but I want to like circle back to what Randy asked. What junior league has the cream of the crop for the next couple of drafts? So Scott and I were talking about this in our Friday mailbag, and he said the US NTDP has really been churning out some top talent. But if you look at the averages, like where do you think the most talent from the next couple of drafts is going to come from?
I still think it's the WHL. I think the WHL is really, in the last like 3-4 years, taken some really massive leaps where I think it's quite clearly the strongest junior league in Canada, both in terms of quality and in terms of the players that it exports. And while I don't think 2024 or 2025 are going to be quite as strong as 2023 for the WHL, I still do think it's going to be the strongest of the junior league in terms of exports. 2023 has a ton of players from the USHL. So if we're combining NTDP and USHL, I think that's a big one. So the US is definitely starting to produce a lot more players. Weirdly, a powerhouse of the 2023 draft class is Norway. Not leagues, but nationality. We've got like 2 potential first-round Norwegians this year.
I do want to talk about Michael Brandsegg-Nygård.
I know. I figured you would. I wanted to kind of give you that opportunity.
Thank you for setting me up. That was a perfect alley-oop. But it's just Michael Brandsegg-Nygård is just a fantastic puck protector. He's a big guy, but doesn't really exclusively rely on his strength or his size, which is exactly what I'm looking for in big guys. I want big guys who are able to place that finesse style, who are able to cut inside to make small area plays, and he's certainly able to do that. He's a refined playmaker. His work rate is high. And other than Matt Zuccarello, can you name me an NHLer who played and developed in Norway? I don't think so, but he's been playing last year in the Allsvenskan, the Swedish second division. There's talks of him maybe transferring to an SHL team this year, but I'd be very surprised.
That'd be a big step.
It would be a major step, but I feel like he's got the frame, he's got the skill, he's got the ability, and he's also a decent skater. So there's a lot to love in his game. I've seen him in kind of preemptive 15 to 20 ranges. I would put him straight up in my top 15. But again, it's very, very, very early. We'll likely both be putting out rankings in September, October, that kind of thing.
Give me until like November. I always wait longer just because I see my rankings develop from like September to November, and if I made my like September rankings public, I would regret it in the future.
Yeah,
so
it would be pretty rough.
I take my time with rankings and making them public.
For sure.
And I have my final question for you guys, and this comes from Tyler on YouTube. Some people are saying that because the 2024 draft is so stacked with defenders, some really good forwards can slip. If Montreal finishes with the 11th overall pick, do you guys think that Berkeley Catton, Igor Chernyshov would be amazing gets for the Habs? Like the other question I already asked, it was about the Joshua Roy, Owen Beck, Philip Bayshard line. So thoughts? I do think that it's not unreasonable to expect the Canadiens to finish with the 11th overall pick. I don't necessarily think that they're going to have another top 10 pick this year, just simply because they cannot possibly have a third year with that many injuries.
Don't put it past them.
Yeah. And I haven't seen the Habs really improve much in this offseason.
Right.
Unless like more moves are to come, which NHL players have they added?
Well, Alex this is Newhook? The thing is that for me, like in my mind, is that what's going to happen is some of these veteran players are going to get injured and go on the IR.
For sure.
Like Brendan Gallagher, for example. And, some guys are going to get opportunities. I also do think that rather than trading some of these veterans, like I do think that it's possible that a prospect or two gets traded.
Sure.
When I say prospect, I'm talking about like somebody like Jesse Yellen and gets packaged with somebody to send them off, something like that. So I do think they're going to be opening up some space for some of these younger guys. But I also, I think that it's impossible for them to be that bad. Just in terms of the injury, the man games lost to injury, but I do think that they're also not going to be good. So I do think that, like, I don't think it's unreasonable to think that they're going to be picking at 11, but also I wouldn't be surprised if they pick at 7, 8, or 5 again.
Yeah, 7's kind of my expectation at this point, I think.
Yeah, and I feel like if it is 11 and Berkeley Catton's available, you're jumping to the stage for sure. Igor Chernyshov, I've got sort of my reservations. I've seen the Jason Robertson comparisons. I don't necessarily see that level of intelligence and anticipation and awareness. For me, Chernyshov is a fantastic kind of small area player. He's able to get out of pressure. He's able to use his edge work extremely well. He's got a long reach, and he's got great finishing abilities. A really decent kind of power forward style, but with some finesse, which I would definitely consider in the 10 to 20 range. I feel like at 11, especially if we're talking about guys like Cole Hudson and Henry Muse,
my guy out there.
But guys like Cole Hudson, guys like Zane Parekh, and guys like that are going to be picked in the top 10. If you're talking about some fours that are slipping, I feel like Chernyshov isn't one of the guys who's going to slip outside of the top 10. He's going to be one of the guys who's available in the top in the kind of 10 to 20 range, which I would rather go for a guy like Berkeley Catton if he's available at 11, which I'd be very surprised if he is, because he's a fantastic, fantastic player. But time will tell.
Yeah, I'd quite like for the Habs to not be going into the draft with an idea of the style of player that they want from their first round pick. I think that's been my biggest frustration with the drafting, like purely the drafting rather than the communication aspect of it, has been that like it's like, oh, we need big horse, or we need right shot defenseman, right? Like we need size, we need these things from these draft picks, rather than thinking, what can these draft picks get us? And I think having an open mind with that is really important. So if there's a guy like Cole Hudson available at 11, and just a little preview, Cole Hudson isn't just Lane Hudson's brother. Cole Hudson is more dynamic than Lane Hudson and a borderline elite skater. But the defense is a lot worse. So he's horrible. Really fun. He's really, really fun. I love chaos. So I adore Cole Hudson. But if we're talking most exciting 2024 eligibles, Demidov is alone at the top. But I think Cole Hudson's definitely in contention for that second or third ranking on that list. So if he's available at 11th overall, and look, the Habs have already shown their desire to draft brothers. So hey, I think this is a good. This would be perhaps a better value swing on a brother of a current Hab.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. All right, so that wraps it up for our third episode of the week. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you're listening, if you're watching on YouTube, make sure to like and subscribe. Leave us a comment letting us know what you want us to talk about next. If you're listening on your favorite podcasting platform, make sure to make us your first listen of the day. For your second listen of the day, make sure to check out Locked On Sports Today. They've got all your news and updates about the daily occurrences in the sports world. And stay tuned for our 3 episodes from next week. This has been Hadi Kalakesh with Sebastian High, and I hope you tune in next time.